morning, everyone, and sorry for the delay. Today is Wednesday, April 3rd. Welcome to the hearing Committee on Appropriations. I note that the hour has come and a quorum of the committee is present. To my left, Councilmember Lozada, Councilmember Bass, Councilmember Gilmore-Richardson. We now have a quorum. The hearing is called to order. This is a public hearing on the Committee on Appropriations regarding bills number 240176, 240177, and 240178. Mr. McMonagle, can you please read the titles of the bills?
Bill number 240176, an ordinance authorizing transfers in appropriations for fiscal year 2024 from the general fund. Certain or all city offices, departments, boards, and commissions, and the grants revenue fund. Certain or all city offices, departments, boards, and commissions to the general fund. Certain or all city offices, departments, boards, and commissions to the aviation fund. Certain or all city offices, departments, boards, and commissions. Bill number 240177, an ordinance amending bill number 230145 entitled, an ordinance to adopt the fiscal 2024 capital budget by revising various appropriation amounts and totals, all under certain terms and conditions. And bill number 240178, an ordinance amending bill number 230144 entitled, an ordinance to adopt a capital program for the 6 fiscal years 2024 through 2029 inclusive, by revising various appropriation amounts and totals to conform to amendments to the FY 2024 capital budget ordinance, all under certain terms and conditions.
Thank you. Please call the first panel to testify.
Can we please have Sabrina Maynard?
Thank you, Sabrina. Just state your name for the record, and you can proceed with your testimony.
It's on. Good morning. Hello. Sabrina Maynard, Deputy Finance Director. Okay.
Before you get started, just for the record, Councilmember Thomas is present for the hearing. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair Squilla and members of the Appropriations Committee. I'm Sabrina Maynard, Deputy Finance Director. I'm joined by my colleagues from Finance, along with representatives from each department that has a request in the transfer ordinance. I'm here to testify in support of Bill number 240176, which is the proposed FY24 Spring Mid-Year Transfer Ordinance, Bill number 240177, which amends Bill number 230144, entitled An Ordinance to Adopt a Capital Program for the 6 fiscal years 2024 through 2029 inclusive, and Bill number 240178, which amends Bill number 230145, entitled An Ordinance to Adopt a Fiscal 2024 Capital Budget. You have also received written testimony from each department that has a request in the transfer ordinance. These ordinances are needed to address areas where funds are being realigned or shortages have occurred, as well as to expedite certain investments in materials, supplies, and equipment that will be critical for Mayor Parker's plans to make Philadelphia the cleanest, greenest, and safest big city in the nation with economic opportunity for all. We have also made changes to the bills to reflect requests made by council members. I thank you for the opportunity to testify today. I would like to request a suspension of the rules so that these ordinances can be considered at the next session of council. If you have any questions, we would be happy to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony. Before the record, before we ask questions, Councilmember Gautier is present for the hearing. Councilmember Richardson.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Sabrina, for your testimony. I just wanted to, for the record, confirm the latest and last round of caucus amendments that were negotiated this morning with the committee. If you could confirm those amendments to your understanding for the record, please.
Sure. We go one by one?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. We added $500,000 for tree pruning in Parks and Recreation, $750,000 in Council Class 200, $200,000 in Council Class 300 and 400, $500,000 for mural arts, $325,000 in FY24 for sheriff space needs, $2 million in the aviation fund for additional tax-related costs that has no general fund impact, On the capital side, $250,000 for some street lighting in the streets department, $300,000 for a repair to Malcolm X, $3 million for Eastwick in capital under Parks and Rec, and $400,000 for their pool. We also adjusted the contribution to the budget stabilization reserve, which had been set as $15 million in '24, and we adjusted it back to '25.
Okay, and also the $900,000
Yep.
from finance?
Yep, we have committed to do that.
Can you state that for the record, please?
Yes, we have committed to do the $900,000
$900,000 from finance?
for finance, yes,
Okay, and that would be for what project?
for the Germantown Y.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yep, thank you.
All right, I have additional questions. Mr.
Feel free,
Chair?
yes.
Okay, thank you very much. This is for the Office of Homeless Services relative to the $850,000 request.
Good morning. Dave Holloman, Interim Executive Director for the Office of Homeless Services.
Good morning. Good morning, Mr. Holloman.
Good morning.
Okay, so you're requesting a transfer of $850,000 in Class 100 funds to Class 200 to address a back payment to 3 vendors. It is our understanding that's Hope PHL, Phil Abundance, and Linton's Kirkbride Food Service. Is that correct?
Yes, it's to request that transfer from Class 100 to 200 to maintain current operations, yes.
Excellent. How are these vendors selected for this payment?
Those vendors are selected through our process of RFI. Many of those vendors has been contracted with the Office of Homeless Service through many years as partners in those areas of services.
Excellent. And in November 2023, during the last transfer ordinance process, you stated that ODAT was owed $420,333. U.S. Facilities was owed $2,435,110, and 1260 was owed $840,180 in FY24 payments. Why were these vendors not selected for payment?
I can get back to you with additional details around those matters there.
Will that be before we have to vote this morning?
No, so many of those vendors, as many of you know, despite our budgetary challenges, we were on a calendar fiscal year. Many of those contracts that we signed, especially for FY24, crossed over a couple fiscal years, so there could have been some budgetary challenges around payment options for them as we are rectifying those issues right now.
Excellent. In the document you provided to this committee on March 22nd, you accounted for a decrease in U.S. facilities costs of $100,000 due to savings realized by hiring janitorial staff.
Yes, we did.
Okay.
As you know, U.S. Facility has been one of our great partners around operating some of the migrant shelters and also with some of the COVID-related. We thought that after looking at an analysis where we could have some cost savings, we thought that bringing on 6 custodial workers through the civil service process would align with having some cost savings there. However, like OHS with many other city departments, that process took a little bit longer where we were expecting a little bit more cost savings. We were finally able to bring them on around late February, March, which we are projecting some cost savings there on the budget.
Okay, excellent. Do we owe U.S. Facilities $2 million?
I would have to get back to you with that final number, how much we owe them completely.
Okay, I'm asking because I need to understand how we are accounting for any reduction in cost.
Yeah, so what U.S. Facility does, they subcontract with organization Team Clean. We were paying an average of about $70,000 per month on those bills there, with the addition of bringing on custodial workers, 6 custodial workers with an average salary between $37,000 to $40,000 a year. We were projecting out for 6 months as we move to a city fiscal year contract starting January 1st.
Okay. In the document you provided to this committee, again on March 22nd, you accounted for an $850,000 transfer from Class 100 to Class 200. There are 23 positions listed as vacant in the department. Can you please detail which unit within OHS these positions are located?
Yes, thank you for that question. So many of those positions are through our prevention and diversion unit, intake unit, which we see a high turnover because many of those positions are social worker. They have a very progressive track for advancement throughout the city, so that position is always have a high turnover. We have some in our contracts and fiscal unit, which we are looking to beef up. But as I stated before to you in writing, we see many turnovers in the intake units where many of those positions are social work, and the city has a very progressive advanced placement with the social work unit where they can progress to higher positions throughout the city.
I see, and I know I did ask earlier in the separate budget process regarding the process to look at a compensation analysis, and I'm awaiting that information to see whether or not OHS was included in the most recent compensation analysis that has taken place within some city departments as stated by the new CAO.
Can you repeat?
Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Okay. In the FY25 operating budget in brief, the $850,000 in Class 100 is added back into the FY25 budget. So if you're dealing with this vacancy issue, why do you need the funds reallocated in FY25?
Yeah, so for Class 100, we, on average, I think, and we're not anomalous, it takes about 4 to 6 months on average right now to fill civil service positions. We're projecting out, because of the delay that we have seen with filling certain positions, that this will help with our Class 200. As you are aware, moving from a calendar year contract with many of our providers and immediately starting city fiscal year January 1st, there were contracts that was previously signed by my previous executor that we had to rectify the budget because we were projected to have a close to $5 million overspent. So as a way to address some of those actions, we were looking at where we could have some cost savings throughout all of our classes to make sure that we have maintained levels of services.
Thank you. Just a few more, Mr. Chairman.
Sure.
Thank you. In the document you provided to this committee on March 22nd, you accounted underspend for 100 new units, saying they will not be online until March of 2024, and notated $924,000 in savings. Which vendor is supplying these beds?
There are going to be a number of different vendors that we are RFPing out from the nonprofit world to support that permanent supportive housing.
So if they say 1260, let's just say 1260, in November of 2023, you stated that we owed 1260 $840,180 for a conformed contract for 100 units previously funded through the Housing Trust Fund. Why has that amount increased?
Why is that now?
Why has that amount increased if we notated $924,000 in savings?
Well, 1260 has some cost savings there because there was some delay in filling a number of those units that were projected out. Again, we were trying to adjust for contracts that were previously signed to address the budgetary challenges there. Those contracts, as I want to make very clear, they were on a calendar year, and so trying to adjust those budgets to meet the overall cost neutral that we're trying to project that $5 million, to address that $5 million projected spending over, we had to adjust certain contracts to meet the needs. But many of our providers where you have seen underspending that, we had to adjust that in our budget cut scenario to meet the needs of current services.
Excellent. In the document that you also provided to this committee on March 22nd, you accounted for $1,552,324 in savings for contractors who underspend, and you listed those contractors as 1260, PHMC, Self, RHD, and Sanctuary Village. In the documents you provided in November, you stated that we owed the following. Have these vendors been paid for those expenses that they incurred FY '21 through '23, and that would be $1,260 at $840, $180 for the 100 units that were previously paid by the Housing Trust Fund already. PHMC, $293,960 for shallow rent. Self is $1,448,045 for shelter combo and $203,099 for winter, and RHD would be $42,377 for Woodstock.
Yes, many of those vendors that we're relating to here, we had a deficit or a balance with them from FY '21, '22, and '23. The majority of those vendors have either been paid or in the current process of being paid very shortly. We have been working with our finance team, city finance team, to make sure that, one, all the invoices are correct, that we're taking multi-levels of accountability to make sure that everything is done in a due process way. We apologize to those vendors if it has caused any significant delay, but what I'm here today to report that over 75% of those vendors have been paid from FY '21 to '22 to '23, and the remainder are currently in process.
Okay, the last 25% are in process, and so that's not a double ask for a double payment. I'm just seeking to understand relative to the units that were already funded under the Housing Trust Fund.
Yeah, so the funds that we're requesting today to help support current level of funding, as many of you know, the city of Philadelphia received a significant amount of money during the COVID expenditure. Some of those monies were directly related to shelters, some were rapid rehousing, which many of those contracts expired 9/30/2023. Because those contracts were signed during that last calendar year, these here would offset some of those deficits that were running on those contracts.
Okay, and then lastly, and I'll submit the balance of my questions in the interest of time because we are in budget. In the document you provided to this committee again on March 22nd, you accounted for $348,803 in lease savings from the Eliza Shirley relocation. But in the document you provided in November, that same amount of money was listed as an FY '24 for the new site, and that the site development was already underway. Was the relocation paused?
So that site, we actually just got confirmation to move into that site of 216 North Broad Street. We looked at the lease of that site, and it would be, there were some costs that will be incurred there, and so it was really a cost neutral. The site that we're currently at now, that Elijah Shirley, we have not had a active commitment on lease there for a number of years there.
Okay, so could you detail the lease savings?
Yeah, I can provide that in writing to you.
Okay. For the record, I have an additional 8 questions that I will submit to the Office of Homeless Services for written response.
No problem, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Councilmember, and thank you, David. Wait, Dave, another question. Councilmember Gautier?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, Mr. Holloman.
Good morning.
I wanted to dig in a little more on the request from the admin. So this is a revenue neutral request that is asking to move $850,000 from class 100 to 200, and I wanted to just understand a little bit more about the request. So for instance, the request is asking to move $428,000 to Hopeful for Gloria's Place Shelter, which is in the 3rd District. Can you talk more about what that $428,000 would cover?
Yes, so Gloria's Place in your district, Councilwoman, we opened that site, the city of Philadelphia opened that site as a result of a tragedy of Lindley Tower closing. At that time, that was the only building that could accommodate families out of that tragedy. We were also faced with a significant number of larger families showing up in the dead heat of the winter at our intake sites. There was a decision made at that time to place some of the families in that location. However, we did not have budgetary authority to do that, and this happened under my previous executor to make a decision there to place families there. Those costs accrued because we didn't have budgetary authority to do that. And so this request here will help resolve resolve some of the debts that we accrue by having families at Gloria's Place.
So just to pause for a second, these are services that have already been provided by Hopeful, which is a nonprofit.
Absolutely.
Okay, so this is like $500,000 that they incurred in services that we have not paid them for yet.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I just wanted to zone in on that a little bit more because clearly we have to take care of that expense on the behalf of that nonprofit doing critical work in our community.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Are there any other questions from the committee? Thank you for your testimony. Mr. McMonigal, can you please read the next person to testify?
We have some public comment.
Mr. DeBoe, can you come up real quick? I know you thought you were out of here, but real quick, we had some negotiations during the process of the transfer ordinance, and some of the concerns from council members was agreements on budgetary requests that aren't really included in this transfer ordinance, but are agreed to, and we'll be receiving things in writing for that. It was mainly on some rebuild projects, and we just want to make sure that we are in agreement of a commitment for those projects. And if we could just get them on the record, I know we have Councilmember Bass and Councilmember Lozada who wanted to make sure that we have that. Can you just go over how the rebuild borrowing will happen and then how that commitment will be set forth?
So Rob Dubow, Finance Director. The next rebuild borrowing is likely to happen around June. The borrowing size will be based on our cash flow needs, and projects that are ready to go will be prioritized. Projects we've talked about, Barrett, Panati, is that pronouncing it correctly? Yes, those are, and Aparna can actually come help me with this. They're ready to go, so they would move as part of that borrowing, and then McPherson is the third one that would also be part of that borrowing.
And the third one, and I guess we'll let Aparna elaborate on.
Sorry, the last one, I know, it was McPherson?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes. If Aparna just wants to explain that those projects are ready, I know McPherson is a little more complicated, but how the borrowing then will be used to make sure those projects move forward.
Good morning, Aparna Palantino, Director, Capital Projects. So 2 projects have already been bid. Panati and Barrett are ready to go into construction immediately. We can proceed very soon, knowing that the balance of the funding will become available as part of the next bond issuance. And McPherson, there is a project currently underway, and the larger project there will continue with the funds from the bond issuance.
And if the bond issuance is happening, obviously, there's other projects that are still not completed in scope of those projects or cost. Would there be a third borrowing at some point to consider them?
Yeah, we've always planned on doing 3 borrowings, so yes, we anticipate that there'll be a third borrowing.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you.
Welcome.
Is there anybody else from the administration who'll be testifying? Seeing none, is there any other questions? Councilmember Bass?
Thank you. I just really wanted to thank the administration for being on the record and for the transparency. It's been a great opportunity to work together, and we appreciate that, this is, really the beginning of a new relationship. And so we just really appreciate the transparency and the willingness to go on the record on these matters. So thank you so much.
Councilmember Gilmore Richardson.
I too wanted to echo those sentiments and really thank the administration and Rob, to your team, and Sabrina, everyone who worked with us on this process. We had a wonderful negotiation, and I'm certainly very appreciative of everything that you all were able to do to help us deliver on behalf of our constituents. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you. I also want to thank our team on council and Helen for her great work and efforts all hours of the morning and all hours after midnight. So thanks, Helen, for her great efforts and work. And Mr. McMonigle, is there anybody else here to testify on any of the appropriations bills in front of us today?
We do have some public comment. Can I please have Paul Birdsong, Mark Pastel, Maze Cashier, and Brian Gordon, please?
Have a seat, Brian.
Thank you all for participating in the civic process. If you just want to state your name for the record and then proceed with your testimony.
All right, good morning, everyone. My name is Mazik Kasher. I'm the co-founder of the Philly Truce Foundation, and here to address, I wrote the numbers down, but all of them, actually.
241, 76.
76, 77, and 78. So we are here, and some others are going to speak, but we are here as members of the community who have given time and energy to patrolling our communities where gun violence is most problematic and most impactful. We come in here today to ask for the support of this committee to take this out of a volunteer operation into a paid operation. And what that looks like is there are 4,000 men on State Road right now. They're going to cycle in and out of our community in a matter of days or weeks or months. There's 42,000 people on parole and probation right now in this city, and the DA is prosecuting 50,000 cases a year. So our proposal is that justice-impacted men be employed, whether it be through diversion, through perhaps the DA's office or a judge such as Judge Sawyer, as a condition of probation, or any justice-impacted diversion matter, or as a reentry requirement, to be employed as community-led visible deterrence, what we call peace patrol. So we're here to ask you today that as you negotiate with the mayor over this budget negotiation cycle, that there be extreme priority given to funding community-led visible physical deterrence in the communities most impacted by gun violence. So to give you an example of how effective this has been in our modeling of it, last year we concluded a campaign called Operation Hug the Block. It was 77 consecutive nights on the blocks identified by the district attorney's office as the most violent in recent history, meaning having 10 or more shootings on those blocks, I think going back to 2015. 35 of those nights were in the 24th Police District, the 7th District. We measured the data from those nights because we were there most consecutively in a single police district. Year over year, August to November 2023 compared to 2022, there was a 64% reduction in shootings, 62% reduction in violent shootings, and I believe an 84% reduction in shootings of people under the age of 18 when we compare the time that we were there to the year prior. Of course, violence was trending down, and we cannot claim all of that, but we certainly contributed. During that time, we had the privilege to cultivate a working relationship with the Philadelphia Police Department. Particularly, again, we spent most time in the 24th District. We developed a rapport. After we received some threats, some of you rallied to our aid, and with that, we were able to leverage additional security from the Sheriff's Department. And so, essentially, as we look at what's in the budget or what's proposed, we see $25 million proposed for anti-violence initiatives. And, you know, for us on the ground, we haven't seen anything that looks even remotely like a state of emergency response. So we're asking that we raise, put some energy into that right now while we have the opportunity to negotiate with the mayor, right? By our model, which sees 6 community members and 1 police officer per base, right? Optimally 2 6-hour shifts, 2 p.m. to 8 p.m., 8 p.m. to 2 a.m. That costs $640,000 for 1 year. That's not a lot of money. We can do for less than $10 million. For $9.6 million, we can stand up 15 bases. I see in this budget they want 200 new cars for $15 million, right? Cops ride around all day, that's beautiful. There's never gonna be enough cops. There's many more of us than it is of them. And until the community is in the first place of securing the community, it'll never be secure. That's just the reality of it. I think I don't have any more else to say except that I would like to present or have this entered into the record, what that budget looks like. I don't know how that works. If I could present that to City Council. Thank you. And some other folks are going to speak, but many of you know me. 3rd District, 8th District, 7th District, all benefited tremendously from this. So I'm asking you to please hear what we're saying and take action. The action that we're requesting is to prioritize all violence intervention spending on visible physical deterrence by community members, ideally justice-impacted men, in partnership with the police. And we asking that we do this in a way that nothing else in the gun violence prevention world can get funded before this, or no organization receiving gun violence funding cannot participate in visible, physical, community-led deterrence. There's a lot of money that goes out, and all prevention and all long-term stuff is cool, but until we stop the bleeding, most of that other stuff not going to really amount to a whole lot, particularly of people being and feeling safe. We having kids shot up at bus stops, and we getting great responses, but it's too late. We have the power to preventively preempt a lot of this. And so we're asking you to partner with us to prioritize, again, I'm going to state it again, that all violence prevention money that gets spent in the coming fiscal year is spent on organizations willing to do physical, visible, community-led deterrence. That is, well, what we commonly hear is boots on the ground, but we're going to take that verbiage out because everybody thinks they're boots on the ground. That's not the case.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Anybody else want to testify on, state your name for the record and then proceed.
My name is Paul Birdsong. I represent the Los Angeles, Michigan, and Philadelphia chapters of the New Age Panther Party under the tutelage of the original Black Panther Party, but a separate organization. We employ new tactics where we work with police, we work with city council, we work with government officials in order to collectively bring about the good of the Black community. We are for the protection of the Black man, woman, and child by any means necessary. We are here today to speak on behalf of the city of Philadelphia, not the organization, but the people. We are here to request, number one, like he said, like the brother said, we do want a boots on the ground or a preventative measure that is derived of people from the community, civilians from the community. Also an initiative that would employ people coming back to the community from incarceration to be a preventative measure to stop violence in the community. But we want to take it a step further. Cities that have an up-to-date, state-of-the-art forensics facility that is capable of solving murders solve two problems. Number one, closure for the mothers of homicide victims who are still waiting. CBS reported in 2023 that 50% of the homicides in the city of Philadelphia go unsolved due to an obsolete forensics lab that is severely compromised and understaffed and underfunded. So we're requesting, along with the propositions that Mayor Sherrell Parker has made public, that immediate attention is given to the fact that Philadelphia has an obsolete and useless forensics lab that neither deters crime or solves it. If CBS News reports with actual statistics that 50% of the homicides in Philadelphia, excuse me, sir, in the gray suit, sir, Councilman Mark, I'm speaking to you guys.
Pardon me, we were just confirming the amount that has already been allocated for the forensics lab
Okay.
that you were speaking about.
Okay, cool.
Yes, because we were listening, and we wanted to be able to tell you at the end of your testimony how much was allocated through this process. We were just confirming that.
Thank you. And we not only want to confirm that money has been allocated to it, but we want to confirm that there are plans to actually put that money into action immediately. Because again, if 50% of the homicides in 2023 were unsolved, how many were unsolved in 2022 and in 2021 and in 2020? How many mothers are waiting from 2018, 17, and 16 to find out who murdered their child? And then why would people stop murdering people in Philadelphia if they don't have to worry about the crime getting solved in the first place? So we want those things to go into, I know there's budgets allocated, I know people have talked about money and have signed papers saying we're going to give money to this, but we want a tangible action to be taken immediately.
Thank you, and that's what we were clarifying, the $50 million for the forensic lab. It is an important aspect of the mayor budget request. Council will be discussing that during the budget process, and that money is something that I think most of the members on council also strongly agree with, not only just to allocate the money, but to put the money directly into use immediately so that we could update our services there. So thank you.
Do you have a timeline? Do you have a timeline as to when that action would be taken as far as getting us that forensic lab?
Well, there's 22.5 going in immediately, so to build that out, the timeline of when it will be completed, we could get back to you on that.
Mr. Chair, can I comment?
Yeah, Councilmember Gautier.
So I just wanted to say that the administration under Kinney, which continues under Mayor Parker, has been working on this, has been taking action on this. They issued a request for proposals last year for sites for the forensics lab. They're trying to make a decision between two sites. One of them is in my district that I'm pulling for. But there's real action in terms of...
What's the deadline on that decision making?
I mean, there's no deadline, but to have the city in active conversations about a physical project is just an indication that this is something that's moving forward. So at this point, the city has to actually select the site and then begin with the actual work.
We understand this site's supposed to be selected by the summer.
By the summer?
Yes, to have that site, but then you have to build it out, and you got to get the equipment necessary to. But that's just a selection of the site and then build it, so it won't be up and running in the summertime. But I know people are frustrated sometimes with government and how long it takes to get things done. But the good thing is that the money is there, the will is there, and you have both council and administration pushing to get this up and running, to do the things that you testified about, is to get closure for folks and really to get the proper information so that the proper and we don't have mistakes if we're sentencing people for crimes maybe they didn't do. You have enough evidence and all the evidence there to make sure that people who do commit those crimes suffer the consequences of that. Councilmember.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. And I just wanted to clarify for the record, based on your testimony, that under the proposed amendment to Bill number 240176, which was one of the bills that you all mentioned that you were here to testify on, under 2.18, it says the police department, payments to other funds, $22.5 million. That is for the forensic lab. We're moving that money up to this fiscal year so that we can help address the costs to get that facility and that process up and running. So that is a part of the bill that we are discussing today for the forensics lab.
Okay, I have one more really quick question, right? If the forensics lab, getting closures for those mothers of homicide victims and also making it a preventative measure against further homicides is a priority, then why isn't there an established deadline on making that decision so that it can move forward?
How you doing, Councilmember Thomas?
Nice to meet you.
Pleasure meeting you, sir. Thank you for being here. Thank you for advocating for our communities and for your government to see your government in action.
All power to the people.
Absolutely. When you look at the type of construction that's going to happen, you can't necessarily put a deadline on construction. We are asking and advocating for there to be dollars allocated so the RFP goes out so that we can select a location. But because this is taxpayer dollars, the process to determine not just where it will be, but who will build it, limits our scope to be able to give the administration an essential timeline. We have to do our part by allocating the money, which was what we're doing today. We're expediting the process and moving up the timeline by giving them the money now instead of waiting for a year or two down the line. But it's not realistic for us to go to the administration and say, you have to have the forensic lab built by a certain time. We can ask them to have a deadline for when they'll select a location. But the reality is, and I think that your request will be taken and we will discuss it as a collective body to see what's realistic and what we can do and what we can ask the administration for. But we can't ask them for a specific deadline for the ribbon
The
cutting.
completion of it, yeah, I understand.
Absolutely.
But
So
the deadline for the selection of a site so that that process can even be started, that's the deadline that I'm asking for.
So allow us to consider your
Yeah.
requests. We appreciate you coming down to see your government in action, and I think your request is one that we will definitely consider. I can't speak for 17 members, but I don't think what you're asking for is something that's unreasonable. So thank you.
Understood. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Bass?
Thank you, and thank you for being here today. I just wanted to echo what Councilman Thomas just added, and just say that, this body will be paying attention and looking for a timeline that is reasonable. I don't think it would be reasonable for us to say you have to have it done in 30 days or 60 days.
Yeah,
Because-
not at all.
Exactly.
Especially if it's going to be something that's going to work.
Exactly. And so we want to be reasonable. A year from now is not, that's not acceptable. But we are
At
going to
all.
be paying very close attention. I can see that you're going to be paying close attention
I
as
am.
well. And so, we'll be, checking to make sure that this is moving. And obviously, because there's work being done on it right now, there's money being put into the pot for it, this is moving forward. So I just wanted to, reassure you that it is going to be happening.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And as you see, you spurred conversation amongst the committee also, which is very good. So thank you for your testimony. Who's next to testify? Just state your name for the record and proceed.
Hi, my name is Nadira Griffin, board member treasurer and chair of fundraising for Philly Truce. I am here today to let you know that it's imperative that we receive funding from City Council to help with our mission, our Safe Path monitoring, our summit programs, and since 1973 to 2023, there has been approximately 350 homicides here in Philadelphia affecting men of color, primarily black men, 80% of men in color. It's imperative that we have individuals from our communities to bridge the gap with the police department, to bridge the gap with our public officials, to bridge the gap with the community, to bridge the gap with the businesses within our community, to help our community. Our black men and women, black and brown men and women, need to see and engage with individuals that they can relate to. And we can relate to no other than the people from the community. We can relate to no other than the people from the community who has been impacted by the crime and violence, who has been impacted by incarceration. We need these individuals to not only be volunteers, but they need to be employed. We need to show them that they are individuals that are of worth, that we are concerned about. We want to uplift them, bring back hope, and have them to believe in the system again. We cannot believe in a system if the system does not work with us, if the system does not work for us. So we're asking you to do everything in your power to make sure that we get some funding so we can continue to advocate and support the black and brown men in our communities, because we have kept this community up as far as we can keep it up. And we're asking you to support us. We need your support. We're asking you for your support, and we beg of your support. And we shouldn't have to beg of your support, but we're tired of our black and brown men being impacted by death and crime. We want to minimize this pipeline to prison. And the reason why I say minimize and not stop, because we cannot stop crime. And I do believe that those individuals, when crimes are committed, that you need to serve your time or some actions need to take place. But there are a lot of individuals who are wrongfully accused. There are a lot of individuals who are wrongfully convicted and incarcerated. But we want to stop that with our youth. And with your help, we can do it. Please help. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your testimony. And, you know, as you see, that there is money in the budget for violence prevention grant dollars. I know the district attorney also has violence prevention grant dollars, and we will work with the administration on, you know, dispersing that to organizations who have positive outcomes. So I think it's important to us as a council to work with the administration on how that money is spent. So thank you.
Good morning, Council, Chair Squilla, and members of the Finance Committee. My name is Brian Gordon. I'm an attorney, constitutional, I guess a democracy attorney, and a board member and advisor to Philly Truce. I'm here this morning really to deliver one important message. You have the power through your spending to reduce or end violence in Philadelphia in the next 5 years, perhaps even in the next one year. I wanted to share with you some nuts and bolts ideas that I gathered when I ran for higher office, and I asked questions, and I went from to corner stores, barbershops, salons, and lunch places in North and West Philadelphia. How do you end violence? And really to address what these wonderful people have come forward today. And this is how I got connected with Philly Truce, is that they really are part of the answer, and I encourage you to make sure there is substantial funding to prevent violence as opposed to interdiction and deterrence. Those are important, but they're not, it's not gonna end it, and we've seen that. That experiment's been run, and it's been a failure. So how do we do it? What I learned from speaking to people on the street is 3 things that get converted into policy. Teach kids right and wrong from home, if possible, as early as possible. 2, keep kids occupied after school, weekends, and the summer. And 3, bring the trades back to public school, in addition to college-bound in addition to teaching kids practical knowledge about how to start a business and getting right out of high school. Give kids hope, and not just hope and option, give kids a vision for how they can be productive members of society. Part of this is school, part of it is you. But so I want to just go down this quick list for you because I know my time is limited. So number one, so here's 9 quick ideas, mostly yours. Support quality community-based programs like Philly Truce that do effective outreach into the most violent blocks in Philadelphia where most shootings occur. They engage young people, moms, dads, caregivers in nonviolence, and recruit and mentor young people with skill sets for productive lives. 2, this is the schools. Teach citizenship, 14-year opportunity in public schools for a program to teach kids how to be productive citizens and strategies for success. 3, we already talked about bringing the trades back to public school. Let me go to more your area. 4, keep children occupied to keep them far from crime. Prevent youth and crime violence. Give children in neighborhoods where shooting and crimes occur, really every school, but if you don't have infinite resources, concentrate on those neighborhoods. Opportunities for sports, art, music, theater, STEM, science, technology, engineering, math, tree planting, and computers, for example. Keep them occupied. If every kid in a high crime neighborhood is occupied and with things that they learn, then crime goes down. 5, encourage families to teach and have discussions with their children about values of kindness, empathy, respect for themselves, respect for others, setting goals, and avoiding trouble. 6, create a role for community and volunteer organizations and businesses to end violence. 7, community policing. Pay police to meet with neighbors on the evenings and weekends and to organize sports, games, and leagues for kids. We do that, need to do more. 2nd, walk the beat in every high crime neighborhood. Get the police out of the police cars. In West Philadelphia, there's a mosque where they wanted to do this program to have a member of the mosque walk with the police around the 47th Street Masjid. They said the police told them that they couldn't do it because they didn't have the personnel. This is a force multiplier for the police. Encourage police departments to patrol neighborhoods where they grew up or where they currently live. It's from people from the neighborhood come back to the neighborhood. Have police walk with a member of a volunteer organization. I spoke about that. Those are some of the basic ideas, and I'm happy to share more with you if you're interested. But the bottom line is fund. You have the power to fund prevention and with organizations like Philly Truce. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony. Is there any other members to testify? All right, thank you. Thank you very much. Mr. McMonagall, can you please call next group to testify?
Can we please have Emmanuel
Councilmember
Bussey?
Gaudier.
I'm sorry?
Call him up, Sean.
Okay, can we please have Emmanuel Bussey, James Lambar, Jamal Johnson, and Tonya Ba?
Testing 1, 2, 3.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I just wanted to take an opportunity to commend Philly Truce and Jamal Johnson of Stop Killing Us for Operation Hug the Block. I think it's an amazing initiative. I've gotten the opportunity to know Jamal pretty well, and I think his message that every citizen can play a role in reducing gun violence in this city is very powerful and inspiring, and Jamal has been an example of that. Back in 2021, I guess, Jamal launched a hunger strike that lasted almost a month outside of this building to get then Mayor Kinney to acknowledge this council's resolution to enact an emergency, a citywide emergency around the issue of gun violence. And since then, I've seen him just model this principle that all of us can be a part of the solution. I had the opportunity to go out with Operation Hug the Block with Mazzy and Jamal in West Philly, and we were, as a group patrolling blocks, we were chanting. I thought people were gonna get mad at the chanting because it was pretty late, but it was actually cool to see how many neighbors came out and interacted with us and were appreciative of the presence. And so I really, really like what you guys are doing. I do think it's effective and something that we should be getting other people to model, that they can make a difference in making their community safer. And I hope that, you know, we can find a way to support you. But I just wanted to take a moment to thank you.
Thank you. Emmanuel, if you want to state your name for the record and
yes.
proceed.
So, for the record, my name is Emmanuel Bussey. It's great being here. I feel like I'm like a homecoming. You left high school, left college, you come back home. I've known most of you before your political careers even began. And some of you, who I'm sitting right in front of, I said, run. I don't care who runs, run. So it's kind of weird being here, looking at some of you that I've known pretty much all my adult life and watched you guys grow. What you see here is a group of people that have, as you know, I'm a member of different kind of Democrat, Professional for Progress. We're the disruptors in the city, but we don't need to disrupt council. Because I laugh because everything that we're saying here today, you already know. We can't tell you anything that you haven't known, don't have an experience. You have kids here. Cindy has a daughter here. Isaiah have a growing family. It seems like it's growing every year. We can't tell you anything you don't already know about this city, about gun violence. The reason why we really came here, we didn't come here to ask for money. As you know, a different kind of Democrat in P2, we never ask for money, right? We never ask for money. Our advocacy is always for a better city, right? For us to work together. Cooperation, collaboration, right? Isaiah helped found P2. 2011, Professional Progress got started. Isaiah was one of the founding members. We started Professional Progress to bring everybody together. The reason we came here today is to ask you to help us bring everybody else together, right? You can allocate the funds, but people don't have to spend them. We're asking you to partner with us to ask the state and the feds and anybody else allocating money to research, data collection, to put the money on the ground. Put the money into a visible presence, just for a window. Try it. In God we trust. Everybody else bring data. The data is, it costs us $175,000 per shooting. That's the cost of a shooting from NBC. Philly, when we hit the streets with Philly troops on the ground, had 1,000 shootings. That's $175 million. That was the cost when we hit the ground. That was $175 million that we spend after the shooting. And what we're telling you, because we need you to be innovative thinkers, right? You are the next. I remember when I used to come back here in 2017, 18, 19, when Janie just first got here, I used to say, you guys are the smartest, brightest, most technological city council we've ever had. I bragged about you guys. I say the same thing. But here's what I need you to do. I need you to be bold and aggressive about the gun violence piece. I need you to think out of the box and don't be afraid to try different things. I'm in IT. We pilot stuff, right? We pilot stuff. We don't roll out anything. We don't implement anything. We pilot it. What I'm asking you guys to do is be that bold, aggressive thinkers. Take calculated risk, right? The administration before this, we was too scared to take risks. Calculated, deliberate risk. I need you guys to be bold about solving this problem. If I'm sharing with you guys, and you can look at the data too, that we spent $175 million just before we hit the street. What if you invested that money in the front end? How much could we save? Not just the city, our medical community, the district attorney's office, the police department. I mean, we all save when we stop it on the front end. And what we're saying is, you guys know, I'm going to just say it. We got a lot of poverty pimps out here, right? That they actually feed and eat off the gun violence. And they write these budgets and these proposals, and they make with the CEO salary, damn near half the damn budget is paying the CEO of these organizations. You got 100 organizations with 100 CEOs making more money than you guys sit up here, right? We got to stop that. You guys got to be the thinkers and say, no more. The hell with offending people, right? We funding our homies and our hooking people up. If you from my district and you got a gun violence program, make sure you get a little money so you don't come at me during election time. We got to stop that. We got to stop the poverty pimping. We got to start hooking organizations up in our neighborhoods. We know what worked. We know what worked. My man Shula, actually, I'm not a gun violence dude. I'm going to tell you right now, that's not me. I'm education, economics. Education, economics. I'm in the gun violence fight because I have to be, right? Because we need a voice for the gun violence fight. Daryl Schuler said to me, Bussy, I went up to the young boy and I put my hand, he about to pull his thing out. I put my hand on his pocket and said, no, we don't want to do that. I'm like, damn, I'm not doing that. Like, we got people that's actually talking to the shooters, stopping the shooters from shooting that we ain't funding. But we funding, I don't want to mention any names because then everybody going to say, man, you hating Emmanuel. But you know, we funding people to sit up in these damn offices, ride around with Lexuses and Benzes, right? We funding these, we got to stop that. And you guys got to be bold enough to say enough is enough. Because it could be one of your kids. It could be one of my kids. Thank God my kids got out. My kids are in college. Thank God they made it out. But I shouldn't have to think like that. I shouldn't have to think, thank God my kids got out. And you guys can help us solve it. You can't solve it. Stop trying to blame city council. Y'all got to understand how this works. They actually allocate the money, but it don't have to get spent. They not the problem. What we need city council to do is partner with us to actually find the problems and implement and execute those problems. Stop goddamn blaming city council, right? Look at who's spending the money. And I'm not blaming our mayor either because we need to give her a chance to succeed. I wasn't for the mayor, but I love her, and I want her to succeed. I bump heads with her because I want her to succeed. And we all should want her to succeed. So we're asking, look, the hell with all the slogans, one Philly, one Philly. We got to mean it. You guys got to be big enough. Y'all know who it is. Y'all know better than all the stuff we up here going to help and testify. Y'all know better than us. Y'all done lived it, done been through it. You got to stop the poverty pimp. We got to stop everybody that's eating and feeding off gun violence and murders in our town that ain't really affecting it. Visible, physical deterrent. Let's try to focus on that from now to the end of the summer and see what happens. Pilot it. All the money going into data and research. Y'all know we don't need no more damn data and research. Put the money on the ground.
Hopefully you'll be more excited next time you testify.
I try to stay calm. Y'all know I try
No,
to stay
thank
calm.
you. You spoke the truth. I mean, nothing we could say that you said wasn't true, so thank you so much for that. And please state your name for the record. And
Jamal Johnson, I'm sure you all know me, for good or bad reasons. I'm here because I also believe that we need a physical deterrence, but I also think that one thing that's lacking, that's been absent, and that no one hardly speaks about, is a community engagement. I think when we have all these listening tours and these town halls, a lot of these people can't get there. And there are a lot of people in the homes that are hostage to this crime that's going on. And people seem to forget, we can take care of the youth, we can address trauma, but we still have people in homes that don't feel they can walk around this city. And nobody's knocking on their doors and bringing the resources to them instead of waiting for them to come to wherever building you happen to be in where you want to have your town hall. As you know, I know I've been known for extremes in trying to address gun violence in Philadelphia because I take it very seriously. But it came to a point where I felt I needed to come off the street, so I retired after our last Hug the Block. At least I hope I'm retired. People don't believe me. But the thing is this, we do need something, and Philly Truce is the thing we need. Okay, I was out there before Philly Truce came on the scene, but I was asking for a Philly Truce. Well, now we got one. So let's put it out there. I've asked, as you all know, everybody, and I wish Kenyatta Johnson was here, but I don't see the president right now. But I've asked him and everyone, including you all, for a physical presence on the streets. I've been doing that for years. And even when I didn't get one, I was that physical presence. Even though I know that there were other organizations that were doing it also, but not to the level that we needed. So I guess what I'm saying to you is, if we got bad blood, put it aside. If we got good blood, then let's use that as my leverage to say, fund Philly Truce, please. Thank you.
thank you. Thank you so much. State your name and then proceed.
Tanya Ba, hard act to follow. Okay. So you may know that I'm the mom of autistic twins, and they too were able to get out of Philadelphia public school system. And what was heart-wrenching was, I want to say last summer, and it was around 11 o'clock at night, and we heard gunshots. Now, the thing about the gunshots in my neighborhood, which is the 8th District, Cindy Bass, and we thank you for the work that you do and that you're going to do. In my neighborhood, we have the 35th Police District up there. So I heard the gunshots, I didn't hear any sirens, and I didn't hear the helicopter. So I said, oh, they got away, which was a good thing, because we don't want bodies laying out in the street, dying, bleeding out of young people. But it was somebody on my block. It was a classmate of my daughter's, and he laid there and he bled out. And the violence that happens in our areas and in our neighborhoods will continue until we actually put credible messengers in charge of how we handle things. We have credible messengers, and we have a non-traditional city council now. I mean, this is unbelievable, and I am very grateful. Just like putting a public bank into law, now it still needs to be funded, and we still need to seat the board, but just like putting a public bank into law and looking for non-traditional ways to help solve some of the problems that we have, we are asking that you look into a non-traditional model, which is Philly Truce. Now, a lot of nonprofits have received a lot of money, and they believe themselves to be credible messengers. But the work is not being done. We see what's happening, and the police cannot make things just go away. If it was up to having more police to make us safe, then North Philadelphia, which has 6 different entities of police, would be the safest area to live. SEPTA Police, Temple Police, PHA Police, Philadelphia Police, the state troopers, and there's another, I just can't think of it right now. And it hasn't made things any safer. But when we were walking around in parts of Kensington and other parts of the city, people came out of their houses with their children, and they were very excited to see people in a non-traditional way think about what they needed to do to help stop some of the violence. We're asking that when you allocate funds, that you look at it from a different lens. As a parent, as a sister, a sibling, brother, taxpayer, all of those things, because you are all of those things. You are our non-traditional response to ending gun violence and ending, or at least slowing down, mass incarceration. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. And do we know that if there was a proposal submitted for a grant from Philly Truce, do you know?
But yeah, let me respond to that. So what I'm really looking for you guys to do is do something we talked about, and Cindy knows this. We've been talking about this forever, right? Dedicated funding for this, right? Let it be a line item in the budget, so we don't have to keep asking for grant money. And then when you have grant, where there's competition, it's the opposite of collaboration, right? When you put these grants out there, and then you got this group competing with this group for this, like, do a line. Philly Truth, what we want you to do is put a line item in the budget for this kind of work, and specifically for visible physical deterrence. I don't know how else to say that, but no, we don't get funded. This is all out of pocket. This is money coming from Michigan and Chicago, and this is all mainly out of pocket. But we need a line. We want you to do something that hasn't been done. That's what I want y'all to do, right? Do the stuff that hasn't been done. Do groundbreaking stuff. I keep looking at Isaiah because every time I think about groundbreaking, I think, but we need you to do groundbreaking stuff, a line item budget for this kind of work.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I do want to thank everyone who testified. The civic pride and the civic involvement is what is going to help resolve these issues. So thank you so much, and keep up the great work. Yes. Thank you. Is there any other questions or anyone else to testify on appropriation bills today? Seeing none. Thank you. That'll conclude our public hearing for the committee as we now go into a public meeting to consider the actions to be taken on these bills before the committee today. We will now go into our public meeting. The chair recognizes Councilmember Goodall-Richardson for a motion on the amendment to bill number 240176.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I offer an amendment to Bill Number 240176. A copy of the amendment has been circulated to all members of the committee. I move that the amendment to Bill Number 240176 be approved.
Second. Chairman notes for the record, Councilmember Thomas seconds the motion. It has been moved and properly seconded that amendment to Bill number 240176 be approved. All those in favor of the motion will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Ayes have it, and the motion carries. Chair recognizes Councilmember Gilmore Richardson for a motion on Bill number 240176 as amended.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move that Bill number 240176 as amended be reported from this committee with a favorable recommendation, and further move that the rules of council be suspended as to permit first reading of this bill at the next session of council.
Second. Chair notes for the record, Councilmember Thomas seconds the motion. It has been moved and properly seconded that Bill number 240176 as amended be reported from this committee with a favorable recommendation, and further move that the rules of council be suspended as to permit the next reading of this bill at the next session of council. All those in favor of the motion will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Aye have it, and the motion carries. Chair recognizes Councilmember Gilmore Richardson for a motion on the amendment to Bill number 240177.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I offer an amendment to Bill number 240177. A copy of the amendment has been circulated to all members of the committee. I move that the amendment to Bill number 240177 be approved.
Second. Chair notes for the record that Councilmember Thomas seconds the motion. It has been moved and properly seconded that the amendment to Bill number 240177 be approved. All those in the favor of the motion will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Ayes have it, and the motion carries. And the amendment to Bill number 240177 has been approved. Chair recognizes Councilmember Gilmore Richardson for a motion on Bill number 240177 as amended.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move that Bill number 240177 as amended be reported from this committee with a favorable recommendation, and further move that the rules of council be suspended as to permit first reading of this bill at the next session of council.
Second. Chair notes for the record, Councilmember Thomas seconds the motion. It has been moved and properly seconded that Bill number 240177 as amended be reported from this committee with a favorable recommendation, and further move that the rules of council be suspended as to permit the first reading of this bill at the next session of council. All those in favor of the motion will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it, and the motion carries. Chair now recognizes Councilmember Gilmore Richardson for a motion on Bill number 240178.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I offer an amendment to Bill number 240178. A copy of the amendment has been circulated to all members of the committee. I move that the amendment to Bill number 240178 be approved.
Second. Chair recognizes Councilmember Thomas seconds the motion. It has been moved and properly seconded that the amendment to Bill number 240178 be approved. All those in favor of the motion will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it, and the motion carries. An amendment to Bill number 240178 has been approved. The chair recognizes Councilmember Gilmore Richardson for a motion on Bill number 240178 as amended.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move that Bill number 240178 as amended be reported from this committee with a favorable recommendation, and further move that the rules of council be suspended as to permit first reading of this bill at the next session of council.
Second. Chair notes for the record, Councilmember Thomas seconds the motion. It has been moved and properly seconded that Bill number 240178 as amended be reported from this committee with a favorable recommendation, and further move that the rules of council be suspended to permit the first reading of this bill at the next session of council. All those in favor of the motion will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it, and the motion carries. This will conclude the business before the Committee of Appropriations today. Thank you all very much for your attendance and testimony. Have a good day.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.